platform, I'm sorry. And there is overflow for anybody who is here if there isn't room in 219, so right down the hallway. 214, I'm sorry. Okay, it is, I don't have a quorum. Can you?
Yeah.
All right, it is now 7:06. I'd like to call to order the Waukegan Public School Board of Education meeting. The board have met in closed sessions under exception C1, C11, and C13. If I can have a roll call, please.
Mr. Rowe? Present. Mr. McBride?
Present.
Ms. Tanner?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wilson? Here. Ms. Leguizamo? Ms. Gonzalez? Here. Mr. Young?
Here, so it does appear that we have a quorum. I'd now like a motion to go back into open session. Motion by Mr. Riddle, second by Ms. Wozniak. Comments or questions on the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo? Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Ms. Tanner?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wilson? Yes. Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes, we are now in open session. I'm going to ask the principal of John Lewis Middle School if she'd be so kind as to do our Pledge of Allegiance.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Ms. Schaefer. All right, we are now at our special recognition and presentations. So we have one item who is going to be the recognition and resolution of honor for Supervisor Emeritus Patricia Jones. So Ms. Jones had her birthday party a couple weeks ago, and the board did present the resolution, but we want to be able to vote on it officially and honor Supervisor Jones for her many years of dedication to WPS 60 this evening. So I will read the resolution, which has already been presented to Ms. Jones, but resolution of honor recognizing the service of Supervisor Patricia Jones. Whereas Supervisor Patricia Jones has faithfully and relentlessly served the Waukegan Township community and the families of Waukegan Public Schools for more than 40 years. And whereas Supervisor Jones was born in Clarksdale, Mississippi, and moved to Waukegan while in grammar school, where she graduated from Waukegan Township High School in 1969. Supervisor Jones would later attend Western Illinois University and Northern Illinois University, where she earned her bachelor's and master's degrees respectively, and whereas Supervisor Jones has since 1977 served as a highly respected public servant with the Waukegan Township, first as the Township Administrator, and from 1997 to 2021 as the Township Supervisor. And whereas throughout her career, Supervisor Jones has been a steadfast supporter of Waukegan Public Schools and its students, its staff, and its programs, and she never hesitates to lend her support on programs and initiatives large and small. And whereas Supervisor Jones' support of students has manifested in many ways, including through the Township's annual Artist Yancey HBCU tour, where she has helped hundreds of local students explore higher education opportunities beyond high school. And whereas Supervisor Jones' commitment to promoting lifelong learning and academic achievement was evident through numerous programs she supported and organizations she served, including the College of Lake County Board and the University Center of Lake County Board. And Supervisor Jones was honored for a lifetime of commitment to Waukegan students in 2017 when she was elected Grand Marshal of the Waukegan High School Homecoming Parade. And whereas beyond her extraordinary work with the Waukegan Township, Supervisor Jones has distinguishably served several organizations, including the United Way of Lake County, the Waukegan and North Chicago Exchange Clubs, the Rotary Club of North Chicago, the Harbor Lights Links of Lake County, and the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. And whereas Supervisor Jones's wisdom, grace, and charity are well regarded throughout Waukegan, and her commitment to serving her community is unparalleled. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the service of Supervisor Patricia Jones to Waukegan Community Unit School District Number 60 be declared exemplary, so that the Board of Education extends profound gratitude to Supervisor Jones for decades of remarkable service and support. Be it further resolved that the resolution of honor shall be spread across the official minutes of the Board of Education, adopted this 10th day of August, 2021. Ms. Hannah.
So move that we accept this resolution as the board president presented it. She's a very deserving person, and her work speaks for itself. The excellence that she's done in Waukegan for everyone from preschool to the elderly to outside organizations, student organizations, camps, everything, you name it, Ms. Jones has supported it, and so I am honored to.
So we had a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Riddle with the second.
And concurring as well with everything that's stated about Ms. Jones.
Yes.
All right. With that, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Gonzalez? Yes. Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Sheehan?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan? Yes.
All right. It is approved. Congratulations, Supervisor Jones. And I'm not sure if you would like to say a couple words right there at the podium.
Saturday, I was privileged to be at the name change, John Lewis, and so I wanted to wear my shirt today, especially like, if not now, when. It was a beautiful celebration, and I thank you all for it. And the principal, congratulations, thank you so much. Nick, or someone, could you bring this down for me? And I have to bring my paper up, you all know I'm telling you now. I have to bring my paper up. Okay, I'm sorry. So I've been privileged to receive several resolutions and proclamations, and I've tried to make my remarks reflective of who's presenting the resolution. So bear with me, because I had one this morning from the county board, one last week with the city, and some others. So I kind of like wrote this while fast. A fine product of the Waukegan school system. You exude confidence, you clearly articulate your positions, and you are thoughtful, considerate, and fair, for the most part. To members of the Waukegan School Board, District 60, and home of the Bulldogs, to Superintendent Placencia, staff, instructors, security, maintenance, and teachers, you have created in me an indiscernible emotion of appreciation, one that I cannot adequately put into words except to say thank you. I am an integral part of you, and you in me. So briefly, Anita Hannah's oldest sister, Rhonda, and I were very good friends while matriculating through District 60. We were Webster Warriors, yay! Now the Edith Smith Middle School, thanks to your bold and unrelentless efforts. Our West Side Middle School, known as the Edith M. Smith Middle School, will forever make a difference in the lives of our students and our community. I've had the personal pleasure of knowing the Smith family for several decades, primarily because we attended the same church. You see, it makes a significant difference when you see your community leaders at school events, places of worship, shopping, or working in the yard because you live close or nearby. For example, Charlotte and I are neighbors. We occasionally see one another outside of school events, which makes a big difference. And by the way, is this where I mention my support of a residency policy? I'm just saying. I have endeavored to support her fundraising efforts for the district when she wasn't even an elected member to this legislative body. She resides here. She cares. Jeff and I have worked together and served the constituents of Waukegan Township for the past 25 years. He has been consistent in championing opportunities for our children and our youth. And Lucy and Andrina Gonzalez, you do not hesitate to express your opinions, which, in my observation, have been thoughtful and beneficial to and for the students. Now, I missed Mr. Riddle. Did I mention him? I must have erased you, Mr. Riddle.
Oh,
Okay, I have here.
That's okay.
Mr. Riddle and I worked together for several years because he was responsible for the educational opportunities and benefits for the men and women under his care. Also, he was a faithful member to the Coalition to Reduce Recidivism. So in 1958, I attended Andrew Cook School as a third grader. My family and I are transplants from Clarksdale, Mississippi, where my brothers and I attended parochial school. So all of the nuns and our priests were white. The student body was black. Then I came to Illinois at Andrew Cook, where I met the very first Puerto Rican that I had ever seen in my life. Her name was, because she is deceased, Teresa Gonzalez and Gladys, and I loved them dearly. Beautiful individuals. Then later I attended Whittier School in the 60s, all teachers, Caucasian. Webster Middle School, all teachers, Caucasian. West Campus and East Campus, all teachers, Caucasian, until my junior year. So this is my story. My teachers didn't look like me, but they were nice, caring, approachable. So that lets me know that you don't necessarily have to look like me to care, but it certainly helps if you do. I genuinely like my teachers, principals, and superintendents. I'll never forget Mr. James Odorizzi, who was the superintendent when I was in high school. So I belonged to organizations while in high school, participated in student government, elected to serve on homecoming courts, and so on and so forth. And I didn't feel discriminated against. That's why I know that racism is taught, everybody. The only uncomfortableness I experienced was in history class, and when we went down the road of geography, it was always quiet when we talked about slavery, and certainly when the instructor pointed out where Africa was. Africa was pictured as being poor and dirty, it was very uncomfortable. I remember when President John Fitzgerald Kennedy was assassinated, and in 1968 when the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Both my Caucasian teachers were understanding and shared our grief. They made horrible situations bearable. A history that I wasn't aware of, and a history that was not taught to me in school, became a history that I learned from the assassinations. So, thusly, the programs and services provided by Waukegan Township is a direct result of my teachings from the assassinations of both King and President Kennedy. So my grandchildren, Milan, who was an honor student at Jack Benny, where London will enter 7th grade, Sydney belongs to Project Discovery, and Jax, he loves his daycare provider, Miss Newsom. My grandchildren, like me, love their children, love their teachers, and they will have the advantage of being taught, hopefully, about the uniqueness of their culture and of other cultures. My brother, a graduate of District 60, graduated college and returned to District 60 as a PE teacher and track coach. And my daughter-in-law, Jasmine, works in the HR department for the district, and she loves it. So at the end of the day, I have an invested interest in the district, and you have invested in me. I appreciate you, I pray for you, and I love you. Bless you. So I just have, with my daughter-in-law as a member of the HR department, I did some little things. So I just have some pictures of when I was involved here in Waukegan High School. I think this is this the student council one? Okay. And then this is, do you all remember, anybody here old enough to remember Mr. Gilkey? Mr. Gilkey, okay, so the melody of many harmonizers. That's when we had the beautiful coats, the whole 9 yards. I mean, you know, we were something to speak about. And then my high school picture. I know. There is a prom, a homecoming picture where we took a picture on Sheridan Road, that beautiful house that was yellow and white and those sort of things. So it has been a blast, and I thank you so much for all of your support. God bless.
Thank you, Supervisor Jones. I know I said it at their birthday party, but I want to do it here publicly too. Supervisor gave me the first opportunity to speak publicly at the Martin Luther King breakfast, and so I'm forever grateful for that opportunity. And it just shows how those investments in our youth pay dividends, and we're super excited and glad for your service, and honored that Mark Jones, our new supervisor, will be continuing on the legacy as our township supervisor. So thank you. And then just as a reminder to, and I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. McBride, and then I just have a quick announcement.
I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done, and Brandon was running out of breath with your accolades. So anyway, once again, thank you so much for what you've done, and what you're still going to do. I know the journey is not over yet for you.
Oh, and so I do just want to remind the public, as well as the Board of Education, that masks are required on all District 60 facilities. So we will request that you wear your mask during the meeting and during public comment as we battle the Delta variant, which has seen an uptick. This broadcast is online via YouTube if you would prefer to watch it from the comfort of your home. And we do have an overflow room as well. But due to safety and out of compliance with the governor's mandate, we will be requiring everyone in the facility to wear a mask. With that, I have the public comment sheet. First name on the list is Brother Blanks. When I call your name, you have 3 minutes. If you need translation services will be provided to you. You get 6 minutes. We do ask that you refrain from mentioning student and staff names in your remarks. Whenever you're ready, Brother Blanks, your time will start.
Once again, Ms. Jones, congratulations. Well deserving. Want to speak on the issue when we're looking at the thousands, if not millions of dollars that are being poured into the district on construction repair.
And can we pause? I'm sorry, Brother Blanks, if you can put the mask up over your nose for me. I know you did.
All right,
And
all
then
right,
if
my
we
bad.
can restart the clock, because
All right.
I had to interrupt them.
That's
I
okay.
apologize.
So when we're looking at the millions of dollars that is going into the construction repair over the summers, and we look at the lack of resources in the community where it comes to young people having job opportunities. I mentioned it before. I think we don't not having workshops or not having wood shops and things like that in the school district. All of that money is a perfect opportunity to have some of these young students having an opportunity to get involved on these construction projects. And if not that, you definitely have the room to do more about the lack of diversity. I took some pictures over this summer. Carmen Buckner to the framework that's going on outside of Whittier School. Not one black man on the job. Now, I do know that there was one guy that was driving around for Bowler. I think he's a foreman. That's one. But that still does not constitute diversity and equity. So when we're talking about equity in the school district, we sure can get some equity on these thousands and thousands of dollars that is poured into the district, and it's just not happening. I mean, it's becoming too old of a subject for this not something to not happen. Also, on the last issue, so please look into that. I took some pictures. I've shared some information with our superintendent as well as Mr. LeBaron Moulton. So please follow up on that. We can't continue to just kick that can down the road with all of that type of money coming into the district. You all know, as I spoke the last time I spoke on me as being a part of the committee for the Parents and Teacher Advisory. You know, unfortunately, we have I've been instrumental in initiating another U.S. Department of Education complaint, which is now open and an open investigation into what happened. We have an attorney who was volunteering her time and her efforts. I spoke on that issue last time. I'm going to continue to speak on it because there's no reason why, when you have people who come into the district to volunteer their time who are genuine and sincere, that they have to be removed because someone do not like what they said or their approach. I didn't have a problem on speaking on her behalf because it's the same Parents and Teacher Advisory when they didn't like what I had to say on behalf of the students that attempted to remove me until I filed a complaint. So it is that same lady that assisted in filing that U.S. Department of Education complaint that is now open. We cannot continue to kick that can down the road where people are genuinely concerned about our students, and whenever they speak up and speak out, they are dismissed or told they have to leave. And so that's why I'm going to continue to support that. Look into those two issues. I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Blanks. Next name is Adrian Meha.
Good afternoon. My name is Adrian Mejia. I am a husband, I am a father, and I'm a working man. So I'm not here because I want to be. I'm here because I have to be. Because prior to this pandemic, I have studied the human biology and nature. And before the pandemic, it has shown me what incredible immune system we're born with, and how awesome it is to be in nature, and how we don't have to be afraid of it. Now, that's prior to the pandemic. Now, when the pandemic was announced, my family and I did not panic. We just followed the experts. We followed the real science. Keep in mind, I also kept an open ear to what was being said on mainstream media because, it was everywhere. It was a worldwide pandemic. But I also remember what I studied prior to the pandemic, and I followed those rules and those true scientific, rules of nature. And I did not get sick. Now, when I went to work, many of my coworkers asked me to put a mask on, asked me to do social distancing, asked me to wash my hands over and over. And I said, why? Do you guys know what I learned about the immune system? And they did not know about the immune system or how bacteria work. Many supervisors told me to put my mask on, but after I sat down with them and I explained to them what I had learned, they couldn't argue with the data. They couldn't argue what I was telling them. They couldn't argue with facts. So they told me I didn't have to wear a mask. They told me that if somebody told me to put a mask on, just to let them know. Why? Because I didn't argue with ignorance. I argue with facts and scientific data. Now I'm here because the school board is asking our kids to put a mask on based on data that is faulty. And we've seen the news, how back and forth it is about putting one mask on, putting two masks on, vaccinated, not vaccinated, still get COVID. So now I'm here because my son cannot speak for himself on what's best for him. Well, like I said, when this whole pandemic started, I informed myself and I followed the true science, and I'm still standing here today, safely, and COVID-free, or whatever you want to call it. And I know that because when I started my job, I had to go take a physical, and the physician told me, you are as healthy as an 18-year-old. So obviously what I've been doing has been working. And now that right is being taken away from my son, because now he's being asked to put a mask on. Based on what? They're at 0.00.4% of mortality rate from this virus. They're basically immune to it. So that's what I'm here. I'm not speaking on behalf of myself. I'm speaking on behalf of my child and all children. And I ask the school board to consider true science. Inform yourself of the other side of the coin, because there's always two sides to every story. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next name on the list is Topacio Hernandez.
Prior to coming here today, I've sent all of you in the board multiple sources of information. A lot of them are directly from the CDC and other governing bodies. As you have known, they have switched their position on masking, vaccination, and so on and so forth multiple times. So as you, Brandon Ewing and Ms. Placencia, were on the Crazy Riot show yesterday or the day before that, stating that you don't really know and you're in the face of this new pandemic, we're all trying to inform ourselves, not just you. We're all working on informing ourselves, because I want my family, what's best for my family, just as much as you want what's best for your family. The only difference between you and me is that when you decide to vaccinate yourself and your children, I don't take away that right for you to do that. I don't expect for only what I want to be done by everybody else. But when I choose to not want to mask or vaccinate, because I know that masks are covering two orifices that excrete and intake oxygen, and I know scientifically that you're supposed to be able to breathe in uninhabited, and that bacteria does actually accumulate on these masks, and that these kids are asked to wear a mask all day long. These masks are regulated by OSHA in any medical or anything service where masks are required. OSHA actually regulates that they need breaks ever so often, that they need to be certain specific types of masks for the specific type of task that they're doing. And mainly the research also shows that the masks are mainly to protect the patient from being infected by any saliva from the actual caretaker, not that it actually stops any viral infection whatsoever. These masks are not approved. None of the ones you're wearing are approved to stop any virus transmission. This mandate is just putting our children's lives at risk, because there are health complications that can arise from wearing a mask. That is also proven by OSHA data way before COVID, that these don't stop any virus, and that they are negative to the children. Socially, small little children wearing these masks all day, they learn to speak by seeing the verbal movement of the mouth. We know this. So there are a lot of scientific and social emotional degradations that you're not taking into account. when following these mandates. Now, your excuse is that, well, these mandates are coming from the top down. That's not a good enough excuse because you're elected to do your due diligence for your community. So I want to see the data of how many kids are getting infections, respiratory infections due to the mask wearing all day. How much bacteria are you guys going to be testing those masks to see how much bacteria is accumulating on a daily basis? Because if you're going to be talking about science, I don't want you to just cite your experts' opinions. Science says data, and there's a way to interpret that data, and there's a way to also collect that information. So please consider all sides before mandating these things on our children.
All right, this concludes our public comment. If we can get our screen back up on. All right, next item is our consent agenda. This consent agenda was done to expedite the work of the board. These are items that should have been previously discussed and or considered non-controversial. Any board member can request that any item be held over and voted on separately for any reason. With that, is there any item that the board would like to vote on separately?
But I do have a comment.
Well, if it's a comment on any of the items, I ask that we vote on it separate.
No, it's for the consent agenda general. That these items didn't come before us, Mr. President.
They did not, but they are non-controversial. That's what and kind of or. So this is done to expedite it. The attachments are there, or the explanation as to what it is. So if any board members would like to hold any items over and vote on them separately, we can do so at this time. If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve items A through E.
I motion.
Sorry, Ms. Leguizamo.
Board President, I'd like to vote on E as in Edward separately.
Okay, so we're going to take items A through D. Do you amend your motion, Ms. Gonzalez?
Yeah. I amend the motion to just approve A through D.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Second, Mr. Riddle. Roll call vote, please.
I should call a point of order, okay, because you went past my request.
Well, you didn't have a
Well,
request.
it wasn't a request, but it was a comment,
And I mentioned it.
okay, because we can't keep the fear off of the procedures. And this is our
So what is your
procedure.
request? Do you want to vote on each separately, Ms. Anna?
No, I'm going to vote on the agenda. I just want you to understand that we have got to, if we're going to do one thing one way, 1 week, then we have to do it consistently the same way.
I haven't changed it. So that's my point. If we want to vote on them separately, we can, but I have a first and a second that's on the floor. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Ms. McBride,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
I'm going to pass completely because these information did not come before the board as discussion.
Okay. Next, continue with the roll call.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak,
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo,
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing.
Yes. Item approved, motion carries. We're now going to item 9E, approval of North Elementary School deteriorated steel replacement.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Ms. Leguizamo, second was Mr. Riddle.
No.
Oh, Mr. McBride. Any comments or questions on the motion?
Question.
Yes.
So I just wanted to clarify, the 181,390, that includes the 50,000 or excludes the 50,000 that we gave the head nod to?
I'm sorry.
Because I'm trying to make sure
It was
if this
init-
includes the 50,000.
I think initially it was 50,000 and actual costs are 181.
Right, so this, and I just wanted to make sure and clarify, this did include that 50,000, right? Because initially we kind of just gave the head nod on the 50,000. So I want to make sure that we're all, ratifying the 50 that is included in this 181. So that's what I just wanted to get clarification on.
Deputy Moden, are you in, or Mr. Kirkenberg? I don't see either one of them.
Oh, there he is. Hi, Mr. Moulton. Sorry about that.
Good evening, members of the board, community colleagues. This agenda item includes the $50,000. It's not in addition to.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that. That was my only question on that. Thank you.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. McBride,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak,
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo,
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing.
Yes, item approved, motion carries. We're now at purchases and contracts. But before, I know we were supposed to have a presentation on both of these items. Okay, so I'd like us to go amend the agenda so that we can actually have the presentation prior to voting on these items.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening, Superintendent, Board President, members of the board, colleagues and community. Tonight I bring before you two items that were previously held over from a July 15th meeting. The first item being our ASAP's request to renew Becoming a Man for the 2021-2022 school year. The part of the rationale for this request is that it's a significant part of our D60 support plan to provide social, emotional, and mental health supports to students. Our request is that we're going to be increasing renewing the current number of BAM counselors that exist in the district, as well as increasing the number of BAM counselors from 6 to 9 in order to support not only all of our middle school campuses, but our high school campuses as well, all 3 high school campuses. The amount we're requesting is $931,000, $931,616.15. I do have members from Youth Guidance here this evening who will be presenting shortly to the board. Their presentation will cover both items, both BAM and WOW. So when you do hear the presentation, know that it's going to be capturing both those 2 items. We also have individuals here this evening who would like to provide some testimony to the board about the program, the impact that it's had in their school, and some other information that would be useful for the board. So originally we were going to have the testimonies after the presentation, but because some of them are school leaders, we wanted to give them the opportunity to provide their testimony so they can go home for the evening, as they know school is starting on Thursday. So plenty of things for them to do. So we do have the principal from John R. Lewis, Miss Molly Schaefer, here this evening. We have a video that was created by the team at Abbott Middle School as well, that speaks to not only BAM but AHS, and the reason they're both lumped together is because we presented these all to the board on, again, July 15th. And that was the same time we were seeking approval for Asian Human Services as well. So they did a video capturing both those 2 programs and the impact that they've had at Abbott. And then we also have a BAM counselor here this evening that would like to speak to the board, as well as a student who would like to share some of his insight with the program. So first, I guess since Lee has the video up, we'll go ahead and play the video. And again, this is from Abbott Middle School in relation to Asian Human Services, which has already been board approved, and then BAM as well.
And I'm one of the counselors at Robert Abbott Middle School. And today we're going to talk briefly about AHS and BAM. Our AHS counselor was part of our MTSS team. This is a team that looks at relevant student data to make decisions on how to best support our scholars. She was then able to provide immediate group or individual services to our scholars depending on the decision making by the MTSS team. Our counselor from AHS offered strategies to the student support team, and she was also able to offer professional development for our staff. Some input coming from our scholars with regards to AHS. First scholar feeling at first they were a strong student but found that their grades began slipping when we switched to online learning. This led to feelings of being stressed, overwhelmed, and depressed. But getting connected to an AHS therapist, the scholar was able to get their grades back up again and begin to feel better again. Second scholar talking about having some family issues and not knowing what to do about that. Getting connected then to our AHS counselor, this scholar felt that they had a person that they could trust and count on. Our BAM, Becoming a Man program, provides a judgment-free space for scholars to express themselves. Scholars then can learn from each other when they are in their respective BAM circles. This is a leadership and a learning experience for our scholars. Our counselor from BAM worked with our student support team to identify scholars who would benefit from being a part of BAM. And moving into next year, our counselor from BAM will be a part of our MTSS team to enhance our ability to meet our scholars' needs. Some input coming to us from our scholars with regards to BAM. First scholar talking about how counselor was very interested in learning more about their goals. Second scholar saying Mr. Maldonado, our BAM counselor, is someone you can relate to, and we just all know how important it is for middle school scholars to have an individual they can relate to. And our third scholar talking about how Mr. Maldonado believed that they can accomplish anything and just the impact that it has on a scholar when an adult believes in them. We're very excited for this upcoming school year. We're looking forward to working alongside our AHS and BAM counselors.
Thank you. The next testimony that I have is coming from the co-principal of John R. Lewis Middle School, Ms. Molly Schaefer. And I just want to thank Molly for being here. They did have a scheduled distribution this evening that ended around 7, so she had to rush over here, so I appreciate you being here, Molly. Thank you.
Hi, how are y'all doing? 2 days till school starts. I'm so excited. We had about 500 show up for scheduled pickup tonight. It was awesome to see them in the building and to see especially our 7th graders and everything, 6th graders, so it was very nice. Dr. Noddle asked me to speak on our BAM counselor, and I was like, serious? I'm exhausted, but here we are. I think it's a great program. It's unfortunate it started this year. Our BAM counselor, Mr. Rodriguez, was really there for the school and the kids during the pandemic. Anytime we had a chance to connect with kids, he was there. He distributed food. He did home visits. He went out in the community. We had an absent kid that wasn't on his BAM caseload. He's like, hey, I'll go talk to him. Even if it was a girl, he said, hey, I'll go to go talk to the family. Let's get him here. Let's get him in school. That's how we get started. And I know there's a lot of people in Waukegan who for the BAM counselors are like, we want local guys, we want local guys. I want local guys too, but you can't match the training of BAM, and we need to build on it because they have some special training that really meets the needs of our especially older middle school kids. This summer school, our summer school population could sign up for any Genius Hour they wanted. Like 10 kids picked greenhouse, and a few kids picked drones, and 45 kids picked BAM. All young men. We had to bring other males in the community in to help with that group. It was so popular. He took the 8th graders and had them meet the BAM counselor from the high school. He's really a kid magnet. He really had a great year considering all the rest of the year. And I just don't think this is the time to remove mental health and support for especially our young men's mental health. And so I do hope the board continues to support our BAM counselors. It was very beneficial for the students of John Lewis Middle School. Right. So I thank you all for listening to me tonight, and I hope this turns out okay. But if not, either way, I'm going to be home for it. So you all have a wonderful evening. And thank you all for being out late tonight, too. It's raining. So have a good
Thank you again, Molly, for being here. We do have a BAM counselor also from who works at Juarez Middle School currently, Chris Durand, who also would like to come up and speak to a little bit about his work in the program as well. Thank you, Chris, for being here. Appreciate it.
Good evening, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. I'm a BAM counselor at Miguel Juarez Middle School, and I want to just share with you a little bit of what I've done throughout this year and continuing into this year. I've been able to assist and support not only the students, but also the staff members within my school. I've been able to just kind of like Ms. Schaefer, principal over at John Lewis, a lot of the things that Mr. Rodriguez did at his school, I've been able to do the same things. I've been able to go on home visits, try to encourage our kids to sign on. I've been communicating with parents, not only to just join my program, but to first and foremost try to emphasize that education comes first, and they should be in school. On top of that, I've just been able to provide a lot of some social and emotional support when it came to this pandemic. This pandemic has not only affected our students, but our families as well. And a lot of what I do is run and facilitate groups. I've had interest from 80 students throughout the school year, and I work with 40 students over the summer. And within these groups, I've been able to just talk about how everything's affected them. In one specific case, a student shared that his mom lost her job. And being able to share that allowed for him to release that off his chest. And not only that, but the other gentlemen within the group were able to empathize with him, and also were encouraged to share their own stories. Just learning the empathetic side of how that is, and how it can affect everybody, and how everything is connected and everybody is impacted with all of this. And with that being said, I, just overall, I hope that I can continue working with the youth of Waukegan and just supporting them in any way that I can. Thank you.
Thank you again, Chris. And we do have a student from Juarez, Edgar. I didn't get Edgar's last name, but Edgar, if you'd like to come up and just say a few words. And Chris, I don't know if Chris, if you want to come up with your student and just support him while he's up here, that'd be great. Thank you, Edgar, for being here. I think Edgar's mother is here as well. Thank you, Edgar. Thank you.
Greetings. It's my first time being here. Thank you. I just want to talk about my experience of being a part of this classroom of BAM, and I just want to talk about how it's honestly a really great place to be in. You can talk about like your emotions and your stories, and just get that off your chest. It's like a safe place to go to, It's not like a thing that they force you to, but you can talk about it, So for Mr. Duran, he honestly made an impact for me during my 8th grade, year, because I honestly, in first quarter, I wasn't doing good at all. I was not. And then in second quarter, I did a lot better. And then when I got in contact with him, I felt a lot better, like actually. It's something like, I don't know how to explain it. But it's just honestly, when I'm with him, I feel safe, like honestly. He's like a dad, He's like a great person to talk to, he really is. And I just want to talk about the fact that I just want to thank him for everything he's done for me. I really do.
Thank you, school leaders, Chris and Edgar, for sharing your thoughts on the program. We truly appreciate it. One of the things that I know has been an ongoing concern for the board is related to the reporting aspect and the quarterly reports that are received, speaking to the impact of the program. So just wanted the board to know that we do have a proposal on the table with BAM right now, requesting that they be contractually responsible for submitting quarterly reports to the district with the following information on it. The number of students participating in each site, the number of individual and group counseling sessions that are conducted monthly within a given quarter, demographic data of BAM students, grade level data of BAM students, referral data, so we know who's actually referring students to the program. And on the other hand, the district will also provide bag reports to the board. In other words, behavior, attendance, and grade reports of the students that are in the program, so the board can help better understand not only the impact that you've heard from the student, but just some of the metrics that are being impacted as well by this program as well. So that is part of the BAM agreement, as well as the WOW agreement that we'll be speaking to momentarily. The same requirements are going to be expected from youth guidance for both agreements. So I just wanted to share that information with the board, because I know that's been a question that has come up previously regarding reporting. At this time, I would like to introduce the youth guidance team. Yes, Ms. Hanna?
Yeah, as I was looking through the presentation for this evening, I looked at some of the BAM will do that was submitted to us. And they're very hefty and lofty goals that they're going to achieve. And I am wondering, I want our children to be successful. That's paramount with everything. And I just am wondering all of those BAM will do's.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when are we gonna see all what they're going to achieve, or what they are contracting with us to achieve with our students? Okay, you know the list that I'm talking about, right? It was in the
Is it in the scope of work, their goals? Is that what you're referring to, their goals and their scope of work?
Yes, because they had some very lofty goals there. And once you say it, once you contract it, that's what I'm going to be looking for. And when are we going to see the results? Because I've asked results. I want to see results.
Sure. Yeah, the impact of any program is important, to not only to the academic team, but obviously to the board and the district as a whole. Our hopes are that by making the quarterly reporting process more structured, that the board will get the data that they're looking for to be able to see that impact that's happening not only within the number of students that are being served, but also within the classroom, with the bag reports, the attendance reports, the behavior reports, the grades reports. At the end of the year, we can definitely do an end of the year summary report that touches on those goals, to see the impact and to see the progress made toward those goals with the program. And I'll let youth guidance speak to the goals more clearly if you had more questions about the actual goals themselves. But that is our plan for this, is to get more in depth with the reporting, so the board feels comfortable with the program and the impact that it's having on students.
And while youth guidance gets ready, because I know that's the second part, I want to ask the board to hold the rest of their questions until the presentation is done, because it may be answered. But I do want to acknowledge that I am in contact and we're watching and monitoring the weather situation. I debated on suspending the rest of the meeting. However, it is not safe for us to leave the building, so we're going to continue with the meeting. If sirens go off, we will be sheltering in place in the basement. So if that happens, we're all going to leave the boardroom and go downstairs, but we are watching it and seeing what's going on. So with that, if we can have youth.
Sure.
And
Thank you, President Ewing. So good evening again. Just wanted to introduce the youth guidance team. We have four individuals that have joined us this evening. We have Philip Kusik, who is the BAM director, Rebecca Langen, the director of external affairs, Darwin Gordon, who is the regional manager for Waukegan, Ngozi Harris, who is the WOW director of program development as well. I want to thank them for being available this evening to come up and share the information with the board about the youth guidance program. So at this time, I would like to call them up to the podium, please. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board, community. Thank you for having us on the agenda tonight. If weather continues, I look forward to sheltering in place with you all for the next duration of our time together. First and foremost, we are both grateful and extremely humbled to stand before you tonight as a partner to the passion that you have for community, the passion for student success, and the passion for engaging families in what it means to feel welcome in the classroom. I won't belabor points this evening. We do have a presentation. I'll speak broadly about youth guidance and our legacy in being a provider for school-based community counseling, mental health supports, and behavioral health. I'll defer the remainder of my time to my colleagues Philip Cusick, Darwin, and Ngozi Harris to speak concretely about the impact of BAM and WOW, and we'll hold time to answer questions as needed. And with that, I introduce my colleague Philip.
Good evening. My name is Philip Cusick, and I'm happy to be with you today to share a little bit with you about our program and to answer any questions that you may have. You can go to the next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Thank you. The BAM program is a group counseling program that also inherently uses mentoring, rites of passage, as well as a strong, trusting adult to work with youth primarily on a group basis as well as an individual basis. Now, our three main goals is to strengthen youth through social-emotional learning. We also want to help them improve academically, and then we want to also be able to impact their behavior as related to how they show up in school using our 6 core values to do so, and we'll talk about that momentarily. Next slide. So integrity, accountability, self-determination, positive anger expression, and respect for womanhood. Those are our 6 core values. You all may remember some of this from last year when I presented, but we use these values so that young people can begin to take ownership for the trajectory in which they hope to be successful not only in life but also while they're in school. We want to support them so that they can have a safe place in order to do that. And I was just struck how the student, Edgar, was able to share from his heart what his experience was. And that is exactly what we hope all BAM students are experiencing. So let's just listen to youth voice for a minute if you go to the next slide. These type of responses from our young people is exactly what we are looking to see. Kids will talk about during the check-in process how they're able to express what they feel. So when they begin the normal check-in process, which we do at every session, our young people often are not able to use the right words or convey the right feelings. But after having their counselor model for them and also having a peer interaction, over time you hear things like, we get to talk about what we really feel. You know, when you go into a classroom, there's work to be done. You may not be able to talk about the fact that you had a headache last night, you had to get up and help your brother or sister get ready for school, or there was some challenging thing that happened in the community. All those things stay bottled up. But when in that BAM circle, they're able to get that out. And then their minds and hearts are clear so that they can actually begin to do the work at hand in the classrooms. We're here to support teachers. We're here to support counselors. We're here to support the day-to-day operation of the school. We're not here to take over. We're here to be an integral part of what the school needs so that the students can get what they need and be successful. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Ngozi Harris, so she can share with you the Working on Womanhood program.
So I won't take up much time, but I did want to share in the next slide about what the Working on Womanhood program is. Like our brother program, it is a group counseling program that we implement during the school day. It's weekly group sessions where young people have a safe place to learn how to own their narrative. We start with the foundation of self-awareness, and we build off of that so that young people know who they are and know who they want to be. I'd help them identify what that means to them and then build up the skills that they need so that they can navigate the world doing that. For WOW is both the clinical intervention, but it's also the group mentoring. So you see us wearing the t-shirts. That's an important part of that, a part of what we do, because it reminds the young people that they're a part of something bigger, as well as remind them of the things that they learn. So when they see that WOW t-shirt, they see that WOW counselor, they're reminded to make sure that they're living up to what they say they want to be. So I started out as a WOW counselor, and I know the impact that that has. I used to have students that would say to me all the time, I value education. It's important to me. I got to get my high school diploma. I got to do this. The last school I was at was a high school. And just them saying that, that's what they value. And we talk about values on that level of what does it look like on a day-to-day basis. And we talk about what that also looks like when you also value your friends. Your friends are your community. Your friends are important to you. What does it look like when those two things come in conflict? That's that foundation that we set. That's that discussion that no one has ever had that conversation with them before of how do you decide between your friends say, we finna jump with this girl. She done talked about one of us and we all got to ride. But you value education. You have to stay in the class. The school done already said we finna put you out. If you do one more fight, you do one more thing. Helping them make that decision, helping them remind them of the decision that they want to make over and over again is a part of what the program is about. It's about that time where they're with each other and they're with their counselor, but it is also about seeing those t-shirts in the hallway and being reminded of it, seeing the posters that remind them that self-awareness is about I have power. It's not that I'm empowered, I have power, and I can exercise that power. And it also is that first time that they also get to explore their culture. They get to understand what their culture means to them and how it shows up in their day-to-day decisions. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the clinical part of it because I am a clinician, a licensed counselor. And we have the big three. We have cognitive behavioral therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, and narrative therapy. All of those work together with the mentoring to impact the lives of young women. So since becoming a counselor, I've moved over to the side of the administrative side. It's the less fun side, it's the less sexy side. And on that side of it, I get to hear more stories about how the pandemic has impacted our young people, where they're at home and they're isolated. And for our young girls, social anxiety is a big thing. And so being isolated has exacerbated that. Their PTSD symptoms has been exacerbated. Depression, exacerbated. And so having a program like WOW, having a program like BAM, will give them that chance to talk about what that means, that reminder of safety when they come into the school buildings after being at home, being in situations where they haven't had the chance to really have that safe space. One of the things that we do when we start programs in different communities is make sure that we match the community. So we identify people that are either from the community or are aware of the community, know what goes on in the community, so that they are able to be that mirror for the young people so that they see what they are going through and they can have a similar experience with the counselors that they have. I'm going to turn it over to Darwin where he can wrap it up and talk about the impact that BAM has had in Waukegan in their year of being here.
Yeah. No, Darwin and I are going to share this. It's really important that we not only provide a great program for the youth and the community, we also have to be able to show through data that we're doing the job that we do. So we want to give you what we have been able to do this year, because this was probably one of the most challenging years for education across this nation and any community that people live. So we were looking to work with 330 youth this year. We worked with 283. That is absolutely phenomenal to be able to do that. We were able to utilize two things. We had a remote curriculum that we were able to use. We also, at times, were able to meet with youth in person. Our counselor was able to get out in the community, as you heard earlier, and visit homes. And it did not matter because whatever the school needs, that's where we are. That's how we fill in. So whether it was a young man or a young woman, our counselors were there. And our students, they showed up, and I'm going to just let Darwin talk about the different grades and how that broke down. And if you can jump to the next slide, you can see, and Darwin can share those numbers that we have for our students.
Good evening. So at Abbott Middle School, grade 6, we served 46 students. Grade 7, it was 39 students. Grade 8, it was 34 students. That was really great, depending on, the fact that the population was very low. The counselor at Juarez, Chris, he served 32 6th graders, 25 7th graders, and 18 8th graders. That may not sound like a lot, but during this situation, it was a lot, depending on the population of the school. At Lewis, I almost said the other word. Don't want to do that. Still got to get used to it. Adrian, he served 26 6th graders, 16 7th graders, and 16 8th graders. And Waukegan High School, Will served 29 students. And overall, it was tough during the pandemic, but we made it through. The summer was great. Everybody was in person, and all of the councils each served at least 40, 45 students, as you heard from Ms. Smiley. Yep.
So this is important to be able to actually reach the students and for them to want to be a part of the program. And so once they're referred, then that student gets to engage with that counselor, determine whether this is a good fit for them, and then we seek to hold them accountable. And we make sure that our young people know that they're wanted, they're loved, and that they have a trusting adult who is there for them. So we don't just do the groups. Our counselors are in that school every day, and typically we're in the schools between 16 to 18 days out of a 20-day month. And the school has access to that counselor. And so it's really important for us to also note that they have an administrator who is able to support the counselor. The counselor has a coach, and they also have a strong data team that's backing them up, helping us to produce the reports once the counselor is able to put all this information into the system. And so we want to be a good partner with you. And I'm also happy to say that Chris is a member of this community. He lives in this community, and we continue to seek to use the talent that is here. We train our counselors up to 200 hours of training a year. This is a tried and true program. Youth Guidance is going into its 100th year. We're working on our centennial. We are part of it. And I just got to say two things before I stop. There's a personal connection. I was so happy to see Superintendent Jones, who was here from Clarksdale, Mississippi. That's my parents' hometown. I just felt good seeing somebody from Clarksdale. And Sister Hannah, I don't know if you know this, but I'm also a Hebrew scholar. Anita Hannah literally means grace twice. Anita means grace, and Hannah means grace, both Hebrew terms. So grace, grace, favor, favor. Thank you very much. And any questions, we're happy to answer them. Yes, Sister Hannah.
Are your counselors that you use, are they certified licensed counselors?
So we have some LCSWs, some MSWs. We do the spectrum. Some of our counselors are not going to be MSWs, but they are trained. That's why we give them 200 hours of training. All our WOW counselors are certified licensed counselors, but we have a large number of licensed counselors. Mr. Duran is such a counselor, as well as others that we have here in Waukegan.
One more question.
Yes.
The contract that we had with you for the 1920 school year,
Mm-hmm.
Not this year.
2020, so last year's contract.
Right, FY
Okay,
20.
last year's
21,
contract.
rather, FY 21, yes.
And the district exceeded, expended $661,000 for your organization,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
How did the contract amount literally triple in cost
I'm not,
that you all are charging the school district for the services?
I would defer that to your staff because I'm not tracking phone. My job is to track program expertise.
Yeah,
Yes.
Dr. Knott will clear it up.
I know
So the contract for the six, and I don't know the exact numbers, Ms. Hannah, I'm just taking your
I
word
do.
as okay. The contract for the 661
Yes.
was for the 5 BAM counselors that we had last year. So this year, what we're requesting is to reinstate or renew the 5 existing counselors and add an additional 4 to that.
So that we went up 400,000 more
And
because, one second,
yep, sorry.
because we're getting ready to approve, a contract for, just, I think it was 1.6 million.
Correct.
And that's a far cry from 661,000. So,
We're adding 10 more counselors. So the price that you're referencing includes the WOW program as well. So between the 5 existing BAM counselors, the addition of 4 more BAM counselors, and the addition of 6 WOW counselors, that's where you get that figure. So we're adding additional 10 counselors to the team.
and I heard everything that was said, presented to us, and the number of students that were served, okay, through the pandemic. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Take your time.
Yes, she's going to get it. There was, you contracted for 300 students, you say?
I believe the caseload is 55 per student. Is that accurate? 55 per counselor. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, and the numbers are that we paid the 661,000 for. Okay, that were those all of the students that you kind of had on your roll?
Of course.
So I can add on to what Ms. Hannah said to clarify that question, because
Go ahead.
and this was what I was confused about. I talked to Dr. Sasario and he kind of explained some of it too. That and I appreciate all of you, BAM, for being here, because I think this is what the community needed to see as well. This is what I wanted to see, more of this data. The last documents that we were presented with regarding BAM, we saw the breakdown of the schools, right? Some schools had under enrollment, some schools, because they didn't have counselors, didn't have enrollment. And I believe it was 86 students who had parental consent to be part of the program, and only 186 students who were actually part of the program. I know that there's like 286 or 283 students represented here in this presentation. I'm thinking maybe that was extra students that were serviced, and so I think that's what Ms. Hannah is maybe referring to, the discrepancy in the numbers. Because it seemed like when we got the initial documentation, I was like, we're not even servicing as many students as we want our counselors to service, and that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so we want to have consents for all of our students, right? This pandemic didn't make that possible, but we still serve those students, and by law, we can serve up to we can provide them so many services without a consent. And so while that may not be in that number that you see, it does not mean those are not students we did not serve and serve for well, because you can actually provide up to 10 services in Illinois to a student without a consent. In addition to that, we did not count those students that we did recruitment services or went out into the community to help them get back in school. Those numbers are not in these documents. So that's why it's important to realize we know that while we look to serve 50 or 55 youth in a school, some of our counselors actually serve way over that. And that is okay with us, right? Our primary goal is to make sure students are served and that they are served well. And so you'll actually get a bigger bang for your buck through what the counselors are doing. And it should be important to note that what we provide those students also are additional funds when they needed COVID relief because of job loss, because sometimes people need computers. Our development team and our agency has received funds that we distribute to those families, and those are not dollars that WPS 60 pays for. So there's a lot of value that we bring because of our connections and long years of service.
And I respect that and appreciate that, right? And I am kind of the cost of your program, okay, has increased dramatically for the Board of Education to approve. Okay, we're, as you heard me say, 1.6 million versus 661,000.
So,
okay, and well, what I'm hearing is that that's not in your contract.
No, that's not what I was saying. What I was saying is, and I believe that our superintendent pointed out, you are now requesting additional BAM and WILD personnel. That's what the increase is for, not for the same number of staff. So you're going to have a much larger program. In other words, we will be deepening and expanding in your district.
Okay, and my final question. Now you, I read up on your program and everything, and saw all of the schools and everything that you service and everything like that, right? And I'm just wondering, the work that you were doing, you're not working with CPS anymore?
No, we still are. Yes.
You're working with CPS still?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Well, my question, what's the difference between two programs in terms of services and therapeutics that you're going to provide? What's the difference between the two programs?
They're gender-based programs, so BAM works with the young men, WILD works with the young women, and WILD is a tremendous clinical-based program, and because males and young men and young women present differently with either proactive or reactive aggression or depression, etc. Males tend to act outward, but young women tend to go often do harm to themselves inwardly. So the programs are expertly designed to meet the needs of those young people where they are, both male and female.
And my next question, how were you able to run groups during the pandemic?
We did it through the computer, virtually. Our expert were able to do an expert training. Coaches were able to develop a virtual curriculum, and like we said, when we were able, we did groups in person. When we were able to follow the guidelines.
I can respect groups face to face.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard for me to wrap my knowledge around understanding trying to do groups. It's just hard for me to conceive that it can still get a breakthrough in terms of what you're trying to achieve. I mean, even the teachers had a hard time trying to teach the kids that so maybe explain that to me. Because I'm a parent, I got kids. It was hard for me.
So it's challenging, to say the least. So I provide, I have a private practice where I do individual counseling, and it's hard doing it that way as well. It's part of the expertise of what BAM and WOW has been able to do with our WTA and BTA, the training academies that we have, where we've really worked on and identified how do we create safe space virtually. And it's not perfect at all. In no way, shape, or form is anyone saying, let's do it this way going forward. We prefer in person because you are able to pick up on those nonverbal cues. You are able to catch when someone has been triggered by something that someone else said. But what we were able to do was give young people the space. So the curriculum wasn't implemented exactly the way we have it laid out for in person. It was more so modified to make sure that we were giving youth safe places, keeping the conversation. And so when I talked about while having a value session where we spend time talking about values, we still had that session, but we modified it in a way that, one, it was definitely more hands-on, more engaging, where I'll give you an example. For our value session, we had them find stuff within their home that represented their values and then share it. So it was those little tweaks that kept them engaged, but by no means are we saying that this was the perfect way to do group counseling, group mentoring work.
Ms. Wozniak?
So you identified students to be in the program. So there's a sixth grader. Is that sixth grader going to continue through high school, or do they graduate out of the program, or do they?
That's a good question. You want to go ahead? I'm going to let Darwin take that one.
Yes, so we started at the sixth grade level. We initially started at the seventh grade level, but we saw the need to go to the sixth grade level. I was actually the first counselor to start with the sixth graders because I found that sixth graders were more mature than the seventh and eighth graders and could handle it. I'm so serious. So we started it, we kept doing it. So they matriculate through the sixth, seventh, and eighth grade and through high school. And in BAM, it's a 2-year program. Then we have an advanced curriculum also when they get to high school. So they continue to go. Even when they graduate out of high school, we have continual programs that keeps them connected, help them find jobs, get them in college, so they stay connected. I've been with BAM almost 9 years. My students, who are now 21 and 22 with kids, still call me today and ask for advice, suggestions, or just to talk.
So you don't switch out the students?
When you say switch out, what do you mean?
Like, okay, say you're not reaching one student and he's just like flunking out of the course or flunking out of BAM. Can you flunk out of BAM?
Oh, you can't flunk out of BAM.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Well, I mean, they're not receptive. They're not listening to you. They're not, it's not helping them.
So very seldom that does not happen.
It does not.
And if we find someone that's not fit for group, we work with them individually. So they do grow, their skills get better as time goes on. They actually ingest all of our core values more and more, as they continue to matriculate through the program.
So you've got these 30 sixth graders and 30, okay? So it never expands to more children, more students in each group.
Yeah.
So what happens is the young people stay connected with us, but they don't. So they don't necessarily leave the program. They stay connected. They, just do individual check-ins. But a new group. So once you do the 2 years, if you decide, you know what, I just want to check in with you on one-on-one. I don't want to do group. They'll drop off. For a while, that rate is something like 75%. So every year we keep 75% and add in about 25% more. So every year we are adding more students in, and we're keep working. Even if you disconnect, you're always a part of WOW. So I hope I'm explaining this in a way that's, you drop off, but you are still connected. You never lose access to your WOW counselor.
Right.
Or band counselor.
Yeah. And it is very possible that when a young person spends 2 years in BAM in 7th, 8th grade or 6th or 7th grade, whatever the case may be, they move on to the high school. So then, you have more open spaces that way too. So attrition happens in different ways, but we try to stay connected to young people.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I got one question.
Let me go with Ms. Leguizamo first, Mr. McBride.
Oh, so thank you, Board President and Mr. McBride. Really quick question, hopefully. So COVID had forced your organization to go remote. We see that your organization was not as successful in 2 of our middle schools, that being Jack Benny and Edith Smith Middle School. Can you talk a little bit about what lessons you guys have learned in this whole remote setting? And if by chance this school year we were to ever revert back to remote learning, hopefully not, but if that's the case, how will your organization continue to support our students and provide your services?
Good question. So first, we at one school there was not a counselor there. So the goal is to make sure we have a counselor present. Otherwise, we also are looking to be able to get students in school because we have to have access to them. And so we're working on other ways to engage students. We learn every year how to better engage. One thing about young people, they will teach you what you think you know because you're going to find out you really don't know it. So we always are learning and growing. We're learning how to work better with the school's administration. There's so many things, ways to learn. And we're having these conversations, you call them coordination meetings, implementation meetings, whatever. We look to have those regularly with the school so that we can, give our best in what we need to do. So that's also what the data helps us do, because part of data is improvement, quality improvement. And so we're data driven, and we look to learn from that.
And so we didn't implement, WOW didn't implement last year. We would be new to the district this year. And so what I'm about to speak on is strictly from our experience implementing remotely from Chicago Public Schools. And what we found was you had to jump through a lot of hoops. So it was calling, it was texting, it was emailing, it was calling the parents, it was giving the parents space to do what they needed to do, venting, getting their frustrations out. It was providing them with affirmation, text and email so that they knew someone was thinking about them. It took a lot of work to engage young people. And our counselors that were really successful, they put, for every student that they got on board, they put in like 20 to 30 hours of consistent, hey, I need that consent, hey, how you doing, hey, what's going on? Because what we know to be true, and we have a parent engagement program at Youth Guidance where we know to be true, like we have to engage the parents in order to really get a core group of young people to be engaged in the process. So we really learned what are the multiple strategies of getting that done as well.
Thank you for that. And this question might be for Dr. Nault here in the back. So I just really wanted to understand a little bit more. I know last time when BAM first introduced their program to our district, We talked a little bit about emphasizing AOEC as one of the starting or pilot programs, and I know for the WOW program, we don't have AOEC as one of the starting or points there. Just kind of trying to understand why we didn't designate our AOEC program to be number one on that.
So you're correct. Can you hear me? You're correct in that our rollout plan included the 5 middle schools and the Brookside campus. The expansion that we're seeking this evening will, again, renew those 6 positions that currently exist, as well as provide a BAM counselor at the Washington campus and at AOEC. Our goal is to implement WOW in the same fashion. There was a need with our freshmen, in particular, as they transition to high school. We felt the need for them to have a level of support in place for them in case they needed it. As you know, when freshmen transition from middle school to high school, it's a huge shift. They kind of go from being the top dog in 8th grade to low person on the totem pole when they get to the high school. And not only is the academic and the curriculum different, but the social settings are different. Their social status is now different. So giving them space as freshmen to use this program was kind of our thought when we rolled this out and we introduced this to the board. I think it was in 2019, 2020 as part of our MTSS plan that this program was brought forth in that manner. So we are seeking a BAM counselor to be specifically at AOEC this year, assuming the board approves the request. So we're hoping to see that impact now across the whole 6 through 12 continuum.
Thank you for that. And Mr. McBride, go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was just telling, I had a sidebar with the superintendent. I hope that request comes within that 10 that we're talking about paying for now.
Yes, it is. Yep, it is.
I just want to say I respect your program. Everything that you're saying, I know that from a therapeutic standpoint, it works. But I do understand that it don't work unless the person has the charisma to make it work. But everything you're saying is correct. Definitely, I understand that our kids have low self-esteem, and sometimes you have to come up with the right information, strategies to make that work. And once that happens, the morals and values change, and they'll be the person that everybody as adults wants them to be, and they'll achieve themselves. So, and I just know that it was kind of hard during COVID to have any kind of rapport with a child through a screen in any kind of way. But anyway, I like I said, I respect what you're doing, and I would also too. I heard you say every counselor has 200 hours of training. So I'm hoping that some of that training can be implemented in our district to staff members that's working around you, where they'll have the same, be on the same page that you're on with the students, because once you leave, that same training needs to still be left behind with the students, because you're only with the students actually a small amount of time, but that teacher or staff member is there for 8 hours. So I'm hoping, some kind of way, I hope that we can implement that training some kind of way in the school district, that 200 hours, because that's what's needed. And I think that's a lack of charisma, should I say, that some of our staff do not have. And if they had it, would help them get a breakthrough better when they're trying to teach our students. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes plenty of sense. And we will provide professional development as as we are able, depending on, because I know our teachers have extremely busy schedules, but we will be available for that, to provide that type of support to staff and administration. It's hard to give people that high coolness efficiency, the charisma you're talking about, but we can give what we got. And, we can make it a little better. Thank you.
And one of the things we committed to, and this was brought forth with Asian Human Services as well, because we were in a pandemic last year, is reorienting the staff at the schools about the programs, what they do, what they offer, how they can refer students, Introducing the counselors, of course, is a huge piece. I know they've been in the buildings all summer working with staff, so they've met some staff as well. So part of our plan would be to, again, make sure that, you know, all the staff in the school, obviously including the administration, are aware of the program, its goals, and what they're trying to accomplish, and how they can use the program to support their students. So that's part of our role.
Sorry, and then I'm going to go Mr. Riddle, Ms. Gonzalez, and then I will have just the closing questions. And we've spent a lot of time on this presentation, so I'm going to ask that we move with the rest of our agenda. Go ahead, Mr. Riddle.
You just kind of want to build on what Mr. McBride just said. I think this program, I look forward to the partnership that we're building with you, and I know COVID was a very difficult time to implement your program, so in this next year, I'm really hoping that you have the opportunity in our district to really form a tight partnership. And as Mr. McBride said, I love your core values and what you're intending to do, and I think it's so good that it needs to be shared not only with the staff but with the rest of our students. So I would hope that some of these ideas, for instance, about becoming a man, can be put up on posters. I don't know if you have some of that sort of stuff, so it can be around our schools. It's something that every child needs. You know, these are good things that our staff can use, that kids can point to and say, you know, this is respect for womanhood, goals, you know, building goals in a visionary goal setting. All these things are just part of education for all of our kids. So I'm hoping down the road it can be something that we share with our whole district, with all the kids, because it's what we want our children to leave school with, not just with the academics, but what these life skills that they really need and that we can help implement. So thank you very much. I look forward to this partnership that we're hopefully going to be building and expanding on. Thank you.
We'll order those posters first thing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And provide those for our board as well. You know, we can put them around here. I'm just kidding. But yes, order those posters and put them in our schools. Thank you so much. Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, Ms. Gonzalez.
Yeah, I just wanted to again thank all the presenters. Thank you for Mr. Duran, you know, the counselors who presented, the student who talked about his experience. I will say that I'm looking forward to those quarterly reports. If they could come to the board, I think that would be a strong way to communicate to our community that, you know, because here in Waukegan we get a little territorial. We're like, we don't understand this program. It's not from here. Some of these people aren't from here, so we need to get to know you. And I think that will only strengthen the partnership that we have and the impact that it has on students. I will say that the data here is a lot more reflective of the impact that it has on students than what we were presented with previously, at least with my time being on the board. But the other two things I wanted to mention was, you know, I understand that it's a gender-based program, but I would be remiss if I didn't at least introduce the idea of, you know, at least being a little more inclusive with what that looks like, because every student is different. We have amazing kids here who have different identities, might go back and forth with the way they present themselves, and I think they, you know, you guys touched on that a little bit, so I would want that to be also a little bit more prominent in the program if it ever comes to that, right? Just so that we're open for all students. And one thing that really touched on me, I missed your name, the WOW representative. Something you said I think was really, really important, and you said that it's about not empowering students, but letting them know that they have power. And so I think that program can do that here, especially because our students need to be reminded that they themselves have power. So I'll leave it at that. I'm really looking forward to the impact that it can have here on students, but I would really love the data to be able to consistently back it up, just so that there's parity with our social workers and our staff.
And I just had a couple clarifying questions. The first one was around the 2-year model, and that they're in the program for 2 years. So if I have a 6th grader who's in the program, that student will go through the program for 6th and 7th grade. And in 8th grade, they'd be associated with the program, but you'd have new numbers. I just wanted to understand that a little bit better.
So we say it's a 2-year program. That does not mean the student is kicked out in 2 years. Secondly, we have advanced curriculums. We have a network curriculum. We have various curriculums that we are able to deploy to meet our youth where they are. But that it just means that's where we know a young person gets the most benefits from being in BAM or WOW. It really does not mean they're literally restricted to 2 years.
And so I guess it's like and I know students are not products, but I was in a group called Men of Vision, right? And if you are, which is Student African American Brotherhood, and if you're a part of that, at the end of whatever the course is, there's something that's tangible that comes out of it. I'm always going to be a part of Men of Vision. I wear it proudly. But is it something like that? It's because basically if a kid started here, a student started here, is there a point where the Board of Education, and I think that's what Ms. Hannah was saying, the results, is when do we say, all right, yeah, the student is still a part of the program, but where should the board be gauging as far as when we have, on what results to expect and by when? Is it at the end of that 2 years with that student?
2 years is where you see the best results, but you can look along the trajectory to see improvement.
Okay.
A very quick short story. There was a student, true story, used to throw desk over, curse the teacher out, and get kicked out of class. He got into BAM. He stopped kicking desks and throwing them over, stopped cursing, and we were called in and said, this kid is still being kicked out of class. And we simply said, that's true. But now he gets up and goes quietly and does not curse out his teacher nor destroy property. Improvement, but not where we want him to be. So that's how things work.
No, and I appreciate that.
Yep.
And so the final question relates to, the final question I have just relates to kind of what we go to is money and knowing the resources. And so one of the things is if we have a target, right, which is the 55 students, how are we going to actively recruit to make sure that we hit those numbers? And are we going to be able to exceed those numbers, which is what it sounds like, BAM is willing to do. So I wanted to understand that a little bit more as well.
Sure. One, we work with the MTSS team. Teachers can refer, counselors can refer, parents can refer, students can refer. We will hit those numbers, and we will exceed them. But that is, we put that as a baseline so that we can, one, ensure that we are giving you guys the biggest bang for your buck, and then two, we also have to monitor, because our counselors tend to want to overdo it, and we have to take their capes off and let them know, slow down. We can't get, we don't want you to go too far and then not have self-care. But yeah, and we will track that, and that's what our data team will do. We'll be tracking it to make sure we're getting where we need to be.
And I know I said that was my final question, but this really is my final question. One of the, obviously hiring during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Again, no fault of you all, but we're also delayed in our approval of this program. So what is hiring looking like, right? Because if we approve it, are we 6 months away from being fully staffed? Are we 2 months, 30 days? Like what does that really look like?
So I can speak for BAM, and Ngozi can speak for WOW. We continue to interview throughout the pandemic, and I know right now we have 2 people at least in the hopper now who will be starting like August 23rd. This is a favorable, we get a favorable standing with you. So we're looking to try, at least by September and October to get you fully staffed.
And that's with the 10?
That's with everything. I'm asking for everything.
And please, refer, because we want people from your community. Yeah.
And for a while, we definitely have started the process of putting the word out that we are hiring and getting that interviewing process. And it typically takes us about 30 days to get fully staffed, just to get recognition about what the program is. So we started that process and paused it just a little, just to make sure that we were approved here first.
Mr. Bright. No, I get it. That's what I'm saying. That's not your fault. I want to make sure once approved, how long to get it fully staffed. That was Mr. McBride's concern last year. We voted on it knowing how challenging it would be during the pandemic because we wanted to be prepared for when our students return, and nobody expected us to be out of school as long as we were. And that's kind of a similar situation as we want to be prepared for day one, but we also can't ignore the reality that things are trending in the direction that we weren't expecting. And so I think from the Board of Education, we appreciate you all coming out and the commitment to being here to answer those questions. As Ms. Gonzalez said, I know the kind of legacy of BAM and WOW and its impacts in other districts. I've talked to other superintendents and board presidents who talked highly of the program. I think we just needed to ask those questions and make sure that the taxpayers understand, because it's a significant investment, right? And so it's an investment of our students, but we want to make sure that we are using our resources efficiently and effectively and solving the needs. So we appreciate you being here. We look forward to the upcoming school year, and thank you all for coming and presenting.
Can I have your card, young lady?
Yeah. I'd like
I can get you the contact
card
information.
too. Okay.
I'll get it to Nick. Get to you guys.
Thank you. All right.
So, can I ask Mr. Dr. Nord a question?
Final question, Ms. Hannah.
Okay, so, the district, said to add 10 counselors to BAM, right?
We are expanding from 6 current BAM counselors to an additional 10 for a total of 16. Yes.
And they're going to be from local?
They, BAM has dedicated, or Youth Guidance, I'm sorry, has committed to trying to hire local as much as possible. I know they did some recruiting. We had the posting of the jobs on our district website last year to try to seek local candidates as well. And part of our understanding is that they will try to recruit locally for their vacancies.
I just wish that the number wasn't so staggering at this time for the first full in-person year. I mean, okay, I mean, it ballooned upward, and that's what the issue for me is, because I want to see results for our children, and for the board to be asked to approve that balloon amount of money. And we've been in a pandemic. We faced the challenges, and we're going to expend this money, large amount of money, from our ESSER funds. Okay, and they got lofty goals, and hopefully they'll be met, because this is a one-year contract, and through a one-year contract, we want to see results. And the second, monitoring. Who's monitoring the program?
Darwin is the regional manager.
District.
From the district level?
Yes.
The MTSS coordinator. They've been a part of the MTSS plan since we introduced them in 2019-2020. So they'll be oversaw by the MTSS coordinator under the secondary direction of the Director of Teaching and Learning, pre-K to 12.
So a whole new function.
All right. Well, with that, thank you for the presentation and for answering the board's questions. We have two items that are currently being asked for us to vote on this evening. That is item 10A first and 10B, referring to BAM and referring to WOW. I am going to take these items individually. Item 10A, renewal and expansion of Becoming a Man, Youth and Guidance for 2021-2022 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Superintendent. The first one.
It is a recommendation of the administration to authorize the superintendent to approve the renewal and the expansion of Becoming a Man BAM in the amount of $931,615.15 for the 2021-22 school year, subject to legal review and program compliance with the state and federal reporting requirements.
So we have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
I'm gonna say yes, but I'm not in favor of the amount of money that's being expended at this time.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Ewing?
Yes. Item approved. Next up, we have 10B, approval to purchase Working on Womanhood, WOW, Youth Guidance for 2021-2022 school year.
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Education authorize the superintendent to approve the purchase of Working on Womanhood, WOW, for the 2021-2022 school year in the amounts of $691,547.90, pending legal review.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yeah, I am gonna vote no on this one.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Ewing?
Yes, item approved, motion carries. We're now at item 11A, approval of counseling coordinator position.
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Education authorize the superintendent to approve the counseling coordinator position to support the district's emphasis on college career readiness and the framework for success in the amount not to exceed $95,000.
Mr. Riddle, I so move that we approve this item.
Motion by Mr. Riddle, second by Mr. McBride. Any comments or questions on the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
No.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Ewing?
Pass. Item approved, motion carries. We're now at item 11B, personnel for 8/10/21.
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Education authorize the superintendent to approve, I'm sorry. It is a recommendation of the Board of Education to accept the administration's recommendation to approve the appointments and accept the retirements and resignations as found on schedules F963, L910, and G621.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Wozniak, second by Mr. Riddle. Any comments or questions on the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Ewing?
Yes, item approved, motion carries.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Miss Nina Geeter, who previously served as the head secretary at Lyon Elementary. She will now serve as the Culture and Climate Specialist at Lyon Elementary with a starting salary of $55,000. Congratulations, Miss Geeter. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Justin Patty, who previously served as a substitute teacher in Kenosha, Wisconsin, who will now serve as the Culture and Climate Specialist at Cook Magnet Elementary School with a starting salary of $55,000. At this time, I would also like to introduce Mr. Fred Williams, who previously served as a case manager at Goodwill Industries in Wisconsin, who will now serve as the Culture and Climate Specialist at Washington Elementary with a starting salary of $55,000. Ms. Vivian Cooter, who previously served as a specialist of pre-K-12 English language learners, will now serve as the coordinator of bilingual pre-K through 8 with a starting salary of $82,000. Congratulations, Ms. Cooter. I think, please stand up. I thought you were in the back. Justin Simon, previously served as a teacher of language arts at the Waukegan High School, will now serve as the assistant principal at the Waukegan High School with a starting salary of $74,500. Congratulations, Mr. Simon. Mr. Darrell Wilson previously served as an educational safety specialist at Lincoln Center. He will now serve as the Director of Crisis and Intervention and Safety at Lincoln Center with a starting salary of $94,000. Congratulations, Mr. Wilson.
All right, look at that.
We also want some of that cake. Not just Congratulations, Darrell.
Thank you, and welcome to those who are new to Waukegan Public Schools, and congratulations to those who have been with us for a while but are joining different roles. Next up, we're going down to financial reports, ratification of the first August 2021 processing of board bills, manual check request payments, and First Midwest insurance payments for the period of June 16, 2021 through August 3rd, 2021.
It is recommendation of the administration that the Board of Education ratify the first August 2021 processing of board bills, manual check request payments, and First Midwest insurance payment for the period of June 16, 2021 through August 3rd, 2021. The accounts payable board June 16, 2021 through August 3rd, 2021 payments total $943,809.80. The manual check request payments for the period of June 16, 2021 through January 30, 2021 total $2,297,986.96. And July 1st, 2021 through August 3rd, 2021 total $3,301,113.28. The First Midwest insurance payment for the period of June 16, 2021 through August 3rd, 2021 total $2,774,388.81.
Mr. Riddle, I move that we approve this item.
I had a motion by Mr. Riddle, second by Ms. Hannah. Any comments or questions on the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Ewing?
Yes, item approved, motion carries. Committee reports, I'm gonna ask that we hold all reports, even mine, due to the weather and the hour. I don't know, Superintendent, was there something that you know? Then we're going down to old business, the only old business item. No, Ms. Hannah did have an update, I apologize, Ms. Hannah, if you want to.
I mean, I just wanted to inform the board.
No, that makes sense, I apologize, I forgot.
No, that's okay. Okay, the delegates report, the state board resolution committee voted not to adopt our resolution, and I do understand why. Their rationale was because that what was in the resolution already is in the English language arts Common Core standards. It already appears, but as I said, that same scenario as when schools were integrated, it was on the books, and it took a long time for it to be implemented. And that's kind of the same thing. Common Core has been around for a while. However, the method of teaching children to read, the science of reading, is not being used. And so I understand, and they said to me that it is up to the local board, the local control, to implement what is in the Common Core standards. And phonics, it does appear in the Common Core standards. And just as I'm sure that if Mr. Ewing asked for it, just like Ms. Vanderbroek sent it to me, she could send it to the other board members to see that we already have the order for phonics to be taught in our schools. Okay, so we at the local level, we have to decide if we want to use phonics in our curriculum. Now, let me also just say this quickly. I know we're trying to get out of here. There were a number of resolutions, and the one that they were referring to that was close to the one that we were submitting was regarding pre-service teacher education and licensure in literacy. Okay, and they are going to advance that resolution to the delegates assembly, and that resolution, it came from school district ABOCA 37, and they, in their resolution, they are wanting the teachers to be evaluated at the licensure level. When they get their license, they have to pass a test based on the science of reading. And that's what we wanted when we put our resolution out there. We needed teeth to make it happen, because everything that has been being done, not just here in Waukegan, but all over, it has failed our students. students across the nation to teach them proficient reading skills. And we all can recite the results of people not reading proficiently. Okay? And so jails, dropout rates, discipline problems, all of it correlates to the to illiteracy. And right now, we are failing our kids. And as one of my things, they're technological illiterates. They can do those devices, but they can't comprehend the reading of those devices. Anyway, just letting you guys know, there were 23 resolutions that were presented. They advanced, or they tried to reintroduce the gun. Yeah. Yeah, but they did not adopt that one. And indigenous people, they're putting that onto the floor for a vote, to put Native Americans, because in the curriculums that's not in any of them, and I thought that was a good one. The really controversial one, however, is the health and sex ed. Okay, and the gentleman from Mercer School District, he is opposed to it being advanced because the comment he made, I don't want my 10-year-old student to be taught how to put a condom on in school. And so we have to be careful about that one. They advanced one for physical and mental health of students. Anyway, we can kind of go in. That's just an abbreviated thing, but it's our job, board members, to determine about our reading curriculum and what we want our children to receive in terms of their literacy skills. Okay, so anyway, they did not adopt it, but at the Delegates Assembly, it will come on the floor for a vote, and it may be the delegates may overturn what the resolution committee recommended. Okay, so, and I had the option to like withdraw it totally, okay, or appeal it. And either way, I didn't have the authority to do that because the resolution was voted on by the board, and I could not make a decision like that. So I just let the resolution stand, and at the Delegates Assembly, it will be on the agenda for a vote. So we'll see, maybe they'll pass. Okay? But we already have the dictates, if you will, from our Common Core. It's there. We just have to implement it locally. Okay?
Awesome. We're going to go down to item 17, old business. Ms. Hannah brought up a proposal at our last board meeting on giving each student in the district $150 to spend on clothing. And so we will discuss that item, and then we have a brief legal report, and then we will close out our meeting. No board member time. I apologize, but the hour is getting late, and you all have tasked me with trying to get us out of here at a reasonable time.
Okay, and thank you. You're turning over to me?
Well, I guess...
I just want to get a premise before we start, because it was initially termed, what'd you say, family clothing assistance. Okay, but I am going to change the narrative of that, and I am proposing that every student pre-K through 12 receive $150 to help families defray the cost for the students to return to in-person this year. And we received $50.5 million in ESSER 3 funds. And I just did a basic math based on the numbers of students that our records show, or that 15,000 students times 150, $2,250,000 out of the ESSER funds to assist families that through this pandemic, this COVID, they may not yet be back working. They may not have the funds to give the students what they need to come back into school, be it supplies. And I understand everybody is giving away supplies, but that you still got to go to the store and buy your kids stuff, okay? And shoes and clothing and all of that stuff. And I just think that it would be a great District 60 welcome back in person for the kids. I don't know how this is going to go, but I think I've been getting many comments, positive comments about this, and how that it would help them because parents aren't back at work, or because of the COVID and all that stuff like that. And I think that this is a good gesture for the school district, and this would be one evident way of showing the community that we really do support our students and our families, and the small amount that each one of them would get. It would be a help to many of the parents. Okay.
So Ms. Hannah set a premise on what she was asking and why she was asking it. There's no board action. Wanted to have the conversation so that we can try and give direction to the administration on how to move about this. So Ms. Hannah has given the rationale. Is there anybody who would like to speak on this topic? Ms. Wozniak?
Is it even allowed to do that with the monies?
So that's a question then is that legal can take back is if we decided to do this, would it be legal? So that can be one question that will be reported to the board.
My thought is that we already gave them back their registration fees plus the $50 for the computer. I think we've already kind of done this in essence.
So I think let's have a conversation. So yeah, your comment is, Ms. Wozniak, so we have the question, and then as a board, recognizing the concerns that we had, the board has already acted to forgive school fees and Chromebook fees. Is there any other comments on this item? So we got a question that's a takeaway.
Half the students didn't pay the fees anyway.
I understand that,
they were
but
eligible not to pay fees.
right, but we also
Yeah.
Ms. Superintendent?
I like the thought. I think is a great thought, and I mean, I see where it's coming from. I have to admit that I'm very leery of just giving out gift cards to each students. I don't know how you monitor that, especially with state money, and how do you know that that money is actually going to purchase uniforms, right?
It's not
Now,
uniform,
if we
Now,
if the suggestion was to give every student in the district a T-shirt for their school pride, that's something I think we could look at. But if you look at any district, when you tend to get in trouble or have legalities around it, it's definitely around gift cards and just passing them out. And what's the accountability system of ensuring that they're being utilized for what we think they're being utilized, right? Of course, we want to hope that everyone does go out and get clothes, but to monitor that and the accountability of that, I think is a great undertaking for this board. And it's 9:25 right now, so I don't know if we're going to solve this tonight because my brain is dwindling down. But I also think that we have to give Kathy some time as far as the statute is concerned to ensure that the board is protected. Because usually when we have money, there needs to be some type of accountability system. So if we buy Chromebooks, they're numbered, they have IDs on them, we know that they're Chromebooks, etc. So that's my input. I am very leery about this idea.
So I think this is just a conversation, and I know the hour is late, but that's part of the issue is the board doesn't have the conversations, and so my commitment is when it's asked, we discuss it. There won't be a yes or no or vote.
Right.
There's some takeaways, which we already have one, and the superintendent reiterated is, can we do it legally, and what does that look like? So any other comments?
Well, I thought it was a great gesture, and what I took from that, from a legal standpoint, and all the other conversations that I'm hearing, it can be done. It can be done through what we're already doing it through. When I say what we're doing it through, we have a department right now that's been helping the poor, feeding people, doing things of that nature. So if we were going to challenge what Ms. Hannah is talking about, I think the money should be referred to that department because that department knows the families in need. And again, like I heard the superintendent say, if you give a gift card, that could be bought for liquor, that could be bought for shoes, getting your nails done and all that. But if you refer to the right department that's doing the work already, what Ms. Hannah is talking about, families that's in poverty trying to make it, to me, that would be that direction to go. And we do have a department that's receiving funds already from different entities to do work like that. So that would be my suggestion if we're going to even move in that direction. And I don't see where that would not be illegal because it's being done already. Grants are coming in from various entities going to that department to do that type of work.
Thank you.
Board President.
Go ahead. Did you have something?
Yeah.
So Ms. Gonzalez, then Ms. Leguizamo, and then final thoughts. Then we'll kind of keep this moving forward.
Yeah, I think, and to Mr. McBride's point, there is money going to organizations who do this work already, but those organizations are focused on doing this. We're a school district, so I feel like we've talked about this before. It's been mentioned where, you know, because of the nature of our school district and our kids and our families, we end up actually trying to do services that we actually shouldn't really be providing as a school district. But that you know, comes from us wanting to help out and go above and beyond for the people who are in the district. The only other thing that I was thinking about, you know, considering that, right, I don't want to challenge organizations who get money specifically to do that work, and to be a competitor in that arena. But I also think about what it says for us to be reiterating this need of like having to look the best at school, because, you know, I shop secondhand. A lot of my friends shop secondhand. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in getting hand-me-downs. I think that when we're trying to remind ourselves or teach kids where their sense of worth should be at, yes, look your best as you can, look presentable, but at the same time, that's not everything, right? And, you know, Ms. Hannah, you say it all the time, we're in the business of educating kids, and I think we should be really good at that first before we start doing everything else. So I think that's where my head is at. And I'm not a fan of fast fashion. I'm not a sneakerhead. I wish I was. I just think that the money would be better utilized elsewhere instead of going to corporations and, you know, things that could be thrown away every other year. And so that's where I'm seeing it from.
Ms. Legozano?
I like the idea about giving money to our community, because when you talk to our community, they are struggling in various different ways, right? The thing that I think that gives us pause, it's about the regulation of where those monies go towards. There are some things that occur in our school district that families pay out of pocket, and because they pay out of pocket, they don't get those chances to experience those things. So, I mean, if we're looking at something about giving monies back to our community, I'd even almost champion the idea of us paying 100% for food, transportation, and cost to like the 7th grade Springfield field trips, the 8th grade Washington, D.C. field trips, the 5th grade outdoor eds that's, you know, over the spring breaks. So like those larger field trips that not every student gets that opportunity to get that educational experience. I think that is something that we can definitely help and manage if it falls within the guidelines. Along with, and I know it's already too late, but I would have liked for our school district to have paid 100% of the school supplies coming into the schools. And they would have had a box of school supplies at their desk so that families didn't have to worry about that. You know, that's something that I think that we could have helped to have controlled and could have pre-ordered everything and help the families in that way. So I agree in a way of helping our families, and it's just about how to control that. So I'm just, you know, I'm halfway there, but just trying to understand how the implementation of that and how the educational piece of that is going to all fold in. So those are just kind of like my ideas, adding on to what Ms. Hannah is presenting here, just as a second option. Thank you.
Yeah, and so
can I do some clarifying things? Okay, that's how come when I saw this on the agenda, I said I wish that was not put there, because everybody was going to focus on clothing. Okay, and as I talk with people, as I talk with parents, I said, okay, and I said this, I'm going to change the narrative. I said that to the parents because I'm hearing that they are in need of other things to assist them to bring their kids back in person. Lucy just named some. of the same very things that they were saying. You all know I've already done my homework. You all know that I know that we could use $2,250,000 out of $50.5 million to give our kids. And we talk about how it probably won't even be $2,250,000, because this number that I used to calculate, it was the number that was that ISB said we could use, even though we didn't have that enrollment in our school district. Anyway, it won't even be that. It won't even equate to that. But we talk about gift cards. Okay, look, who said a gift card?
You mentioned that. Ms.
I
Hannah.
did mention that, but again, I also said I was changing the narrative, and as I thought about it, got to thinking about it, right? Okay, there's a number of ways that 150 would assist a family. Example, sports fees. We did not waive sports fees.
So I think for me, that's what the board is saying, is that the heartbeat of what is, well, I won't speak for the board, I'll speak for me, is that I agreed, and I told you, with your heart, is how do we help and we assist families. I think I come down more with Ms. Gonzalez, is there are entities that are already providing these resources. Why should Brandon Ewing get $400 for having a student in District 60, when yes, I would love $400, but my family doesn't need it.
Okay,
And so there are families who do not need it. And while there are things that we control, like athletics fees, like Ms. Wozniak said, with school fees that some parents do have to pay, with Chromebook fees and Chromebook repair fees, and them being afraid to ask because they don't want that to be added onto their bills. So if you're open to, I think, Ms. Hannah, kind of going, I mean, if it has to be $150 in cash that can be used on whatever, I personally, I would have to see legally, can we do it, and then make up my mind on what that would look like. But I think Ms. McBride brought up a reasonable solution, which is make sure that our student outreach department has the resources that it needs, so that the parents who are in need know that they can go there for certain types of assistance. And then when there's assistance that the school can't provide, we have a list of those social service agencies that are fulfilling those needs, because they have those SFOs too, and they receive dollars in order to do rental assistance and LIHEAP and other things. And so families have to be given that information. And then if we say clothing is an issue, because it is, I'm not going to disclose how much I spent on clothes for my 3 boys, and I brought a size 11 shoe for my 10-year-old. It is a cost, and thank God I'm financially able to go into the store and buy them things new. But how can we support those families with that need in a way that's not as expensive? Is because I think using community closets where it's not just used stuff, because I agree with Ms. Hannah, although it can be used, that's okay, but even us providing new stuff where parents can actually go in and shop, right? Is there creative ways? And so I think if the board is saying we want to solve this problem, or I'm saying I would like to solve this problem, but maybe not in the way of just handing out $150. Ms. Wozniak?
I was also interested in how much late fees and that
Like
the students have, you know, so
Oh,
they
man.
can't
Like
graduate.
mine? Like, yeah, because it just rolls over,
Right.
and if you don't pay
Right.
them, whatever.
Yeah, you know, I'd like to know how much that is, and can we forgive that debt?
And I did look, and I just really want to thank all of you for even listening at the at this suggestion. And those people that know me, they know that I walk through the fire for the children.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is one of these things, okay? And it seems like it's a big deal. And one thing that I'm hearing a theme of is that people are afraid of what people are going to do with that money. Well, once it comes out of our hands and into their hands, we truly don't have any control over that. And we should not expect to have control over that. What we have done was we have fulfilled one of the social emotional aspects of our kids going back into school. Now there's going to be, if this were to happen, there are going to be some students, probably many more than we know, they're going to welcome to be able to go to Old Navy, be able to go to City Trend, be able to go and get them something new to wear. That's just the clothes part. What about the parent that has to drive back and forth to drop the kids off to school that may need to fill up a gas tank, okay, or that they need to go buy more masks for their kids? Okay, see, so this is just not about buying kids clothes. This is about assisting the families. I just appreciate you all entertaining it.
Yeah,
I
thank you, Ms.
didn't
Hannah.
know.
I think
doubted that it was going to go anywhere.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing is that you want another stimulus check, and whatever we could do to get the other people, our other representatives, to get on that plane. I mean, all of us are hurting a little bit.
Yeah, everybody is hurting.
Yeah.
And what about those families that have one parent and they got 4 kids?
Right.
That they have to try to provide for.
And so in this scenario, what I'm saying, and then I want to bring it to a close, is if we do what Mr. McBride said, that mother, that father, that grandparent who has 4 students and are struggling will be able to make the request of an apartment, and then will be able to be supported in that way. And so I think it's, if we all stay focused or committed to what the goal is, and that's supporting families, like Anna said, she'll go through the fire for families, that there's a way to do it. And so, Mr. Riddle, final word. I apologize, and then I am going to close.
Right. I just wanted to, I appreciate the heart of the board and the heart of Ms. Hannah in trying to help families, but we have to keep our focus too on the fact that we are an educational institution.
Mm-hmm.
We're not a social service agency. And the money that has been entrusted to us by the community is for the education of our kids. So everything we do has to be focused on,
Absolutely.
as Ms. Hannah always says, helping children learn.
Mm-hmm.
So we yes, we want to help others, but we need to help, and we want to help our community, but we're not a social service agency. There are social service agencies out there to help children, or parents to buy clothes or whatever it is. I mean, that's a great need, but it isn't. I don't think it's focused on education. Some of the other things the board members have mentioned, indeed, are educational. As Ms. Leguizamo said, helping children experience things like field trips that they may not, have the experience for. We can help with that. So we have to keep our focus on that. That's my only comment. It's just it has to be focused toward the education of our children, whether that's experiential or academic. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And seeing how we just spent $1.6 million on social social service, that it's kind of oxymoron.
Oh, it's not
Well,
oxymoron.
we're not- we're not.
That is totally focused on children. If those basic needs
And
are.
it's for 1 year.
Yes.
You wanna give $2 million off the bat with no tracking? I feel like we gotta
Yeah.
be fair.
Right, absolutely.
If it's gonna be
It's
tracked,
okay.
we gotta track everything that we
think
do
it was gonna
financially.
go.
Absolutely.
All right, with that, we have a legal report, and then we are going to close.
Thank you. I just wanted to report that the cities of Waukegan and North Chicago will be going forward and in Waukegan in particular, on August 16th, they will be having a public hearing on the Enterprise Zone Amendment and Intergovernmental Agreement related to the solar project for Yeoman Creek. The district will be providing a letter of support for that program and also have representatives available at the public hearing if there are questions or anything we can do to support that program that will help move forward the solar field project at Yeoman Creek. So we're very excited that we're ready to move forward on that.
So, yeah, I plan to just sign the letter of support on the board's behalf. I wanted to brief everyone so that they are aware. With that, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
So
Star
moved.
40. Motion by
Second.
Ms. Wozniak, second by Ms. Gonzalez. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Meeting adjourned.